I am so glad that you could be here today. My name's Rich, the channel's called New Memphis, and today we're painting the followers of our favorite Lovecraftian asshole, Tzeentch. As you probably know, a couple of weeks ago we painted up some 40k beastmen straight from the Blackstone Fortress box set. That's it. I remember the name. 2 of them were straight from the box, and the other 2 we kit bashed, one of which we turned into an unofficial Tzaangor with a chainsword. Shh, no one tell Games Workshop I didn't want to pay for shipping. I want to draw a little inspiration from this earlier work, but maybe make it just a little bit more grimdark, because I do want these to be able to fit alongside the Tzeentch-inspired corrupted guardsmen that we also painted a few weeks earlier, also from Blackstone Fortress. We are also splitting this project up into 2 weeks because, well, I actually just revamped my entire setup, so I can actually do that now. I don't have to like go through and tear everything down in order to start doing like the actual live filming and then put everything back up in order to start doing painting again, and it's a whole deal. Now we can actually take multiple weeks to do a project, which I know is not quite as satisfying to get it all done, but I think it'll make for better projects, which is, at the end of the day, the point. And I'm still gonna try to keep everything very beginner friendly, because I'm still a beginner, but we're gonna do interesting stuff that will help you make beginner models look great. Focusing mainly on simple techniques and interesting color combinations to make basic models still look really good. And with this project, quite frankly, it just needed to be split up because they needed more time to cook. You know, I felt like at a certain point that I was just throwing paint onto the model just to have something on there, and but every time I did, it just, you'll see. So I hope that you'll come join me on this painting journey. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave a like or a comment if you want to help bully the algorithm into being nice to me. Join the Patreon if you really want to help out the channel, but times are tough. Take care of you, and let's get on to the painting. Ugh, boy, do I need a beer. I've been drinking that 0-calorie, like, sugar-free soda all week. Trying to, you know, establish healthy habits and, like, not die at 40 or something like that, you know. I'd almost drink Natural Light before I drank any of that crap, but that's good. Let's get started. Alright, for this project we'll be painting a total of 11 models, 6 varied units from the Warhammer Underworlds, and an additional 5 Tzaangors, the beastly goat-headed children of Tzeentch. While the Underworld's models may come on these fancy stone bases, we'll have to add some texture to our plain Tzaangors. We'll accomplish that starting with just a little bit of cheap black paint, touching 3 or 5 random areas. Remember, odd numbers always look more natural. I keep a pre-made mix of both coarse and fine coffee grounds on hand, used and baked in the oven until completely dry. Quickly dunking our bases in here and tapping off the excess will give us the texture we're looking for. Here's an update after I primed them in gray. I didn't quite manage to cover that texture. If you want to avoid my mistakes, apply a thin layer of matte medium to your bases to lock those coffee grounds in place, or whatever texture you're using. As for our painting style, I decided to make their skin nice and vibrant, choosing a dark color and a highlight color, though we won't start the highlights until next week, unfortunately. I chose some blues and greens for most of our Tzaangors, and amaranth red for the skin of our human models. Now that the skin has been colored, we'll move right along to our wash. I'm going to use some of my normal black wash, but try cutting it with a little bit of royal purple. I'm just really curious to see how this turns out. The exceptions here will be our demonic horrors, which we've painted white and will wash with London Grey. Here they are once the wash was dry, looking fantastic if I do say so myself. The next big step will be reapplying our base colors to a slightly smaller area than before, focusing on the raised areas and leaving the recesses alone. After that's done, we'll trace some of these areas that we want to be metal with London Grey. Okay, if I'm being honest, this is where the project started to really get away from me. Since my main colors were blue, green, and purple, I thought that yellow might make the blades of their weapons stand out, so I mixed some Flash Gits yellow with quite a bit of water until I had a wash I could apply to all of the blades. I think this would have looked a lot better if I had painted the blades white ahead of time, because painting this yellow over the gray and purple just looked absolutely hideous. And yes, I do know these daggers are supposed to be in a sheath, but that's no fun. When they didn't turn out quite the way I wanted, I switched over to the bases, coloring the stone bases with yellow ochre, as I've already painted a lot of gray stone bases in the past, and I wanted to do something different. Hopefully this will give us a nice sandstone look. And for the bases that we textured with the coffee grounds, we'll paint them with cork brown to look more like a natural earth. And once the bases were dry, we'll give them an earthy brown wash. Here they are once the brown wash had dried. They're coming along pretty well, but I just could not figure out what to do with these weapons to make them more distinctive. I decided to try to go back to our Flash Gits yellow and apply it a bit thicker at the base of the blades. Well, that turned out okay, but not quite how I imagined, so I mixed a wash of Amaranth Red and applied that to the lower half as well. When that still didn't look quite right to me, I threw a Hail Mary and tried adding some Carroburg Crimson. It looks okay, although on 2 models I tried applying the crimson to the entire blade and it was so bad I had to just start over and repaint them. I eventually just had to put them down because something was just not clicking. So, switching back over to our horrors, remember these were originally white with a wash of London Grey, but since I had so much of that Amaranth Red wash lying around, I painted it all over our little Brimstone friends. It was so thick that I had to come back with my dry brush, and I tried to swipe away some of the paint from the raised areas, and actually it worked pretty well. They still need some specific highlights, but this is actually a very, very good start. I even broke out the Carroburg Crimson again and applied it to the deepest recesses, and it ended up looking pretty solid. Okay, these weapons are the bane of my existence. The gradient looks okay, but they don't look like swords, so I'm going to try something and see how it looks. I'm going to go across the color spectrum and break out an old favorite, German Extra Dark Green, and trace the blades with that to give them some form. Then, I'll cover up most of that green with very careful strokes of white. And honestly, I think we stuck the landing. The result is pretty good. With just a tiny amount of time left before I needed to go and start editing, I squeezed in a quick dry brush of yellow ochre onto all of the bases to tie them together. And that is going to be a wrap for this week. These are coming along really well. Like I said, we're going to continue painting these next week, adding some extra highlights, maybe do something extra with the bases. We'll just see how it pans out. I'm very excited at the idea of having an entire week where I can just do detail work like this, because normally it's something I'm frantically trying to do, and I really don't like detail work, but I'm trying to change that. And these Tzaangors are certainly a good project to change that for, because they turned out to have a lot more detail than I thought. But we're gonna make it work. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Click subscribe if you would like to, and remember, these are a work in progress, but let's get on to the big reveal. Seems a little off to judge these before they're entirely finished, but I think we can go ahead and talk about two things that I liked about the models and one thing that I want to do better next time. To start off with the good stuff, the purple wash turned out excellently. Super happy with how that turned out. That deep purple shade was great, especially over that amaranth red. Absolutely pairs beautifully, and the emerald also paired really well with it. I am very excited for how that turned out, and very excited for how these are going to turn out at the end of next week. Yes, the human cultists do look a bit red, but that's okay. We're still going to add some flesh tone to even that out, and I still do want to keep this for later. Maybe if I do some bloodletters or corn cultists, I'll come back to this. I've already used the purple-red combination for them before, and it worked out really well, but this is... I really like this orange. I'm going to come back to this. A second good thing, the sandstone bases. I think those turned out very well. Not much else to say. I'm excited to add more detail, and I'm very happy with them. As for one thing I do want to do better next time, the obvious one is the weapons. I've just never been good at doing gradients like these. That stuff is hard, but regardless of the fact that I'm not super happy that it didn't turn out the way I wanted, I do think we managed to stick the landing, and I am excited for where they're going to go. So, keep up that positivity, stay ready for anything, and we're going to keep working on it, and we're going to make these look great. I'm going to keep having confidence in that, and, even at the end of the day, as I always say, There's exactly one way to get better at something, and that's by doing it. So we're gonna do this, and we're gonna keep working hard. That's the end of the video. That's all I have for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed being here. I've been Richard. You've been amazing. And I'll see you in the next one.